Good evening, class. This is Steve Smith, and this is my Week 4 current event. I'm going to be focusing on performance appraisals, and if the company should have them or if the company should not have them, and kind of looking over the two different perspectives in regards to performance appraisals. The two different points of view that I'm taking is one from Mark Epstein and Making Sustainability Work in Chapter 5. That is a positive spin on what performance evaluations can do for a company. And then the second evaluation critic that I have is from Forbes.com. I have a gentleman that says it's time to scrap performance appraisals. We're going to go through kind of the two different views on these. I think the first thing that we need to discuss is what are performance evaluations and why are they important? Performance evaluations, per Mark Epstein, are to capture the logic behind a sustainability strategy and facilitate agreement about what is important, how day-to-day activities add value, and how each person contributes to the mission, and that's the mission of the company. I think the main insights here is that performance evaluations can lead to creating additional dialogue within a business to have an open communication. It then encourages communication for employees and managers and also employees to speak with each other. This helps to allow for clear expectations and what the value add is to the business. And lastly, it tracks the evolution of the organization. It keeps the efforts in which the business is putting forth in regards to sustainability more of like a checks and balances. One of the most important things that we can ask in regards to evaluations is what is the why in evaluations? Why do companies use evaluations? I summed it up as performance evaluations are important to the business because it allows checks and balances for management for implementing sustainability, which aids strategy, structure, and other systems to achieve success. Within the text, Mark Epstein also states that additional benefits for performance evaluations could be comparisons on performance over time to see if you're doing more or less throughout the life span that you've been at the business. Highlighting the optimization potential, so setting a benchmark or setting a certain point of expectation, deviation in pursuit of social and environmental targets, evaluation of social and environmental performance between firms, so benchmarking performance between departments, communication tool for corporate reports, so it's one time for a manager to sit down and speak with you and tell you about the state of the business, feedback instrument for information and motivation of the workforce. Depending upon how the approach in which the manager takes, they can then, make you excited for the future, or they can read you the riot act, if they will. Technical support for certification programs, providing the information to change managerial actions and improve performance. This is important because it leads to incentives and rewards for the employee. Now, within the Forbes article that I found this week, the biggest point in the beginning of this article was that companies need to be welcome to change, or open to change, and allowing to change the thought process and the structure in which evaluations are being given out. Initially, evaluations were created to weed out bottom performers every year so that the staff could get stronger. This was really built on a weak philosophy of we totally can't trust our managers, and it's really just opinionated. I think one of the biggest things to look at here, there are a lot of kind of cause and effect style points, and that's once a year is not enough for feedback. So sitting down with your manager is just not enough one time a year during raise season. Regular feedback is needed, whether it's on a weekly or daily basis. The accuracy of the information is typically not going to be very accurate. It's going to be only in regards to the last 3 months. This then makes it awkward and uncomfortable in the evaluation. One-on-one. In today's society, most people do not still manage one person or report to one person. We have multiple levels and multiple managers within segments of business, so you don't have that one-on-one relationship. You're actually working with multiple people. Immediate feedback. I think this one was extremely important because it was taking care of poor performers quickly and efficiently. They can breed corruption within the business, especially with the poor attitude. Forced rankings. This was in regards to damaging the culture of top performers. There are companies out there that have top performers and a lot of top performers, and being able to fit those all and force them into a ranking structure can really do damage long term. And then the last piece was development planning. This, what I would argue, is the most important aspect of a review, but typically it is just a small box in the lower left corner of an evaluation, and most managers don't spend enough time looking at development and how to improve upon the user or the employee's performance. Within the article on Forbes.com, it then goes into detail stating that many companies are scared to eliminate evaluations, and elimination can be scary. Many source facts state there were top 4 reasons they need a fair and validated way to distribute compensation increases. I do agree with this statement, but I don't think that they need to be coupled in with a performance evaluation. We need a record of low performance when we let someone go. I think there's still a way to get a record of low performance, but not just once a year. I think that's an ongoing and annual process for managers. We need to capture performance data in an employee profile for future promotion, talent reviews, development plans, career migration. I think, once again, this is something that doesn't need to happen once a year, but rather something that happens on an annual basis, whether it be quarterly, monthly. I think managers should have a better grasp on their staff than once a year. And then lastly, we need to make sure that managers are doing their job well. Once again, I think that's just a cop-out for upper management to state that their staff is doing their job. I think an ongoing performance review would dictate that they're still doing their job, and typically those managers that aren't doing their job will be weeded out at the early phases. The article that I chose to review then takes a little bit of a turn within its evaluation or performance evaluation stance. Initially it was, do we need them and why do we need them? I think now it then turns the corner to say, what are the keys to actually making evaluations successful? I believe here this is where the book and the article actually have some synchronization. The first being is feedback-rich culture that promotes employee feedback. This could be formal, it could be informal, but really just opening that communication between the department and the employee in order to gather or garner additional information. Next, separate the discussion about performance from the discussion about career plans. I don't think that, I completely agree with this statement. Having 2 different discussions, gives you more time with the employee, but also you can separate whether it's good news or bad news, but they're 2 different conversations. Next, open communication about goals and ongoing feedback. As I stated in the last slide, I believe that this is an annual thing that should happen weekly or monthly or even quarterly. But communication with management and employees needs to be opened up and broadened out so that it happens more frequently. Ask employees to self-assess. Typically employees already know something about their own performance, and forcing them to self-assess allows them to put some credibility, put some skin into the game, to recognize what they've done and what they haven't done, and then it allows them to then consciously make that decision to improve upon their performance. By stating these things, it's kind of a verbal affidavit to improve your performance. Lastly, assess the performance regularly. This is another topic that we've hit on multiple times. I thought this one, the last key to success on this slide was actually really interesting because it was hire the best to begin with. I think hiring the best to begin with really positions you for future growth. Now, I don't know if that's always the case. I think there's a lot of limiting factors here, but I do agree that hiring the best to begin with is going to set you up for the best future. As we move forward through the article, there were some additional keys to success. Not all of these keys that I quite agree with. The first one here, everybody wants to succeed, and organizations can move people around to find the right position. That's an interesting concept. And in my present position, I have individuals that have held 3, 4, and 5 different jobs within the organization, and to be brutally honest, they really haven't done any of those positions real well. But I feel that many of the managers within our company really believe in this key to success, to continually moving people around. I do think at some point, though, you really have to dial that in, and if not, part ways with that individual, or understand from them what they want to do, because you can place them into a position, but if they don't have the skills and or the drive to do the job, it won't work out. Next, set and reset goals. Give you the ability to continually modify those goals throughout the career of the employee. Beware of pay performance plans. This is something that many are familiar with in the sales organization, but it can also create some issues in different type of performance processes, such as like engineering, or customer service, other builder roles. This can create problems. The next point would be give leaders the ability to set values. Empowering the leadership within the business really can have its benefit to the employees if that leader takes that initiative and sets the goals and sets the values of the department and really holds their employees to it. Next is leadership development. This is really a key to success in the future growth of the business by identifying leadership and developing internal candidates that have information, insider information about the company. And then also reward talent production and not talent hoarding. I thought this was a great key to success, just to make sure that that we focus on heavily on the target talent performance and evaluation. This is a good thing, but ultimately companies thrive on building skills. So in addition to encouraging managers to produce good work, incentivize them to produce good talent as well. Overall, this current event this week, I felt there were really two different opinions that were being relayed here. In the book by Mark Epstein, Making Sustainability Work, I felt was more of a technical review of performance evaluations and the impact it has on the business, whereas the Forbes.com article, in which I found, was more of a realistic view in regards to evaluation. Throughout both of these two options, I really do feel that they were obtainable, sustainable, and also aspirational. It kind of gives me the outlook when going to work to be able to identify these skills and traits, and some of this to apply to my daily life in order to make my job better and making the staff in which I work with more productive and better performing employees. Now that we've went through these different performance evaluation views, I do want to pose a few questions to the group to really begin a communication or to begin a discussion about performance evaluations within your job that you received and were given. The first being share performance evaluation that was good or bad. Do you think it was fair? Did the manager not look at the entire year? I think this is a pretty common mistake with management. Share the frequency in which you have performance appraisals, and do you agree with it? Yearly, monthly, quarterly. What are the key performance indicators that on your performance appraisal Many companies have different KPIs when looking at the evaluation. And then lastly, share if you've given a performance evaluation to an employee. And do you think that it was beneficial for both the company and the employee? I do want to say thank you again for taking the time to go through my current event. I know I included quite a few different cartoons here in regards to evaluation. I hope that I did not detract from the presentation, but simply just added a little bit of humor in the presentation because there's a lot of discussion in regards to evaluation and whether it's good or bad or how companies are handling evaluation. And sometimes the reality is that companies really do it poorly, while other companies do make a success of it. Below are book of works cited that were used in order to create this current event. Thank you again.